All right, everybody, we are back and we are going to go over how the actual sand beds are made. So first off, we got to talk about the pitch. So now what we talked about last time with how the pond is situated in lieu to the bed itself is very important. The pond has to be the lowest point of your entire system. So you got to set that out accordingly. Now we kind of went through that, so we'll just go straight into the bed. So look here at the bed. The sides of the bed are constructed with one 2x4 pressure treated because this is up against the dirt. Any wood that's against dirt for long periods of time will rot. So you have to use a pressure treated board. And then I use a 2x8 on top of that with 5/8 rebar to hold it in place. 5/8 is very strong, it does not bend. And I space those out every 3 feet on the rebars. That keeps it pretty solid. Now this plastic here is pond liner. It's an incredibly thick plastic. I wished I could remember the millimeter thickness and the brand. I don't remember it offhand, but if you guys are interested, just shoot me a personal email and I can send you the link to where we buy it off of Amazon, but it's very expensive. Pond liner is actually the most expensive part of the entire build. This bed here is 32 feet by 3 foot wide, and it costs roughly 260 bucks for just the plastic alone. So you build the box, make sure it is pitched perfectly, and I'll show you the pitch here in a second. You put your pond liner in, and then you glue your pipes and your gravel. But first, so you have to understand the pitch. So everybody knows the level. You can see this little bubble moves as you change the pitch. Now the most important pitch to the entire bed is the bottom trench down here where the pipe is. So you can tell the pipe has these rock on top of it. This is 1/2 to 1 inch river rock, smooth sanded washed. And the reason for that is, we'll go over that in just a second, but so you see the pipe that lays down in the bottom of the bed. So the bed has a little trench dug into it right here, and that's where all the water collects. And if anybody is familiar with the French drain, this is exactly what a French drain is, but we're just using it in a hydroponic application. So now we'll talk pitch. So the pitch in the bottom of the trench is 100% the most important part to the entire build. If you get that wrong, if your pipe does this, you can have a dip in the pipe and it's gonna sit water in there and create mold and get anaerobic. Anaerobic means there's no oxygen present. Things start to rot, bugs start to grow that you don't want, and that's a bad situation. So you got to make sure you have your pipe laid out just perfectly. Now come over here and look at the level. So if you look at the bubble is just barely touching the second line to the right, which means that's very close to 1/4 inch per foot of drop. So if you raise this up by 1/4 inch, boom, that is perfectly level. So that means it's dropping 1/4 of an inch, which is teeny tiny, half of your pinky size per foot going back to the pond. Now that is the most important pitch, but to get the water into the actual trench of the bottom, you have to have a very aggressive pitch in perpendicular to that pitch. So the bed, if you look over here, the bed is dug out and laid up with a very, very aggressive pitch on the perpendicular line. So it's hard to see the bubble right now because it's such a high pitch, but as I move this up, boom, you can see the bubble. Now that is almost 3 inches of drop, and that's only 3 foot. So that's a 1 inch drop per foot, which is super aggressive. So when the water goes in here, it's going to sprinkle up here and it is going to rush down into the trench and collect through the pipe and go back to the tank. So now that we got that covered, let's go over the pipe and how it collects water and doesn't suck in sand and dirt and fish poop and all the good stuff that you want to keep inside the bed stays in the bed, and the water gets filtered through at a very efficient rate. So down here on the bottom of the pipe, like I said earlier, it's a French drain. So this pipe is actually reused from a different grow bed, and it had a big hole in there, and that's why I used these 1 inch rocks. I typically will use pea gravel, which is just a smaller crushed gravel, but the 1 inch will be just fine. So you got these hole right here and little slits cut into it with the skill saw. And the slits are cut into it so it collects water coming off of this section. So it doesn't need to collect water over here. It just needs to collect it over here. So they're put onto the bottom, and then you cover it with this 1 inch rock, which keeps the pea gravel on top of there and not getting any sand in it. Now the pea gravel is the next step. So you do the pipe, put the 1 inch rock, and then you lay the pea gravel on top of that. And the pea gravel doesn't have to be very deep at all. The pea gravel is merely just a highway for your water to travel. So if you look over here, I put a quarter in there, about a half of a quarter deep. So that's only that deep. That's all you need. It doesn't take much. And the less pea gravel, the better, actually, because it's going to, the more pea gravel you put in, the less amount of sand you can put in. The less amount of sand you put in, the least amount of space for the roots to grow. So you want to keep it maximized for the size of your bed. So now we've gone over the gravel, the pipe, and how it's laid out. Now we're going to cut this video and we're going to go to the next video and talk about the filter fabric and the actual sand.